Hey guys, today I want to make a video talking about Textmeshpro and input fields. So a lot of times you see input fields with Unity and the basic UI system, but if we want to work with them with Textmeshpro, which is really the way that Unity's going these days, how would you get the value from that? And we're going to work with that today. We're going to talk about a few examples here. So hope you guys enjoy it, but before we get started, if you guys enjoy this video, this type of content, be sure to give me a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe to let me know you guys like this and to let me know that I should make more of these videos. Anyways, let's get started. So from here, I have a pretty basic project. The only thing that I have in scene here, the event system we can actually get rid of right now here. We do have, excuse me, we have the main camera, we have a game manager, and we have a game manager script. The game manager script itself, it is basically as bare bones as you can get it though, okay? So what I'm going to do is let's go to the hierarchy. I'm going to right click and let's go to UI, and let's go to input Textmeshpro right down here, input field I should say. It's going to ask me to import TMP essentials. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Cool. And we can close this out right now. And now you'll notice I have my input field right here. You'll also notice the event system came back. If you have a canvas game object in scene here, make sure you also have an event system. If you get rid of this here, but you still try to do stuff with the canvas, you're probably going to run into some issues. I'm going to just tidy this up a little bit just so it looks a little better. Let's make it a little bigger here. And I'm going to center this, 1, 2. And let's just give it some whole numbers, 400 and 100. Now, one of the things you'll notice if I drop down this game object from here is I have a text area, I have a placeholder, I have the actual text here. Remember that the placeholder is the stuff that's there before. I had this little error there. I'm not quite sure why that is. This stuff, what is going on here right now? I might have to regenerate project files. But anyways, this stuff can we not fuck around today? Thank you. Now, one of the things that you'll notice here, if I drop down this canvas game, Now, one of the things you'll notice here, if I drop down this input field game object, I have a text area, I have the placeholder text, and I have the regular text here too. So the placeholder text, it's kind of hard to see right now here, but that would be what's there before I start to type. If I go ahead and hit play, and I start to type in here, that placeholder text goes away here, and that gets replaced with just the text. All right. That does look a little weird right now, so let's format this just a little bit here. I'm going to click on both the placeholder and the text, and let's go and make this centered, and then centered. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger too. Let's go 36, and that looks pretty good from there. You notice the placeholder text is kind of this grayish, italicized, italic font, and the actual text here is not. So once you type, there should be a visual feedback for the user to know that the enter text here is just the suggestion text here. And why don't we say something like, you know, enter the, cool. And then let's go ahead and go to our game manager script. Of course, you could make a script for just managing the UI, but right now, just for the simplicity of the tutorial here, I'm going to just use one script to manage everything. Now, if I try to use using Unity Engine.UI, this isn't going to work here because the Textmeshpro game objects and the package that comes with it is a little bit different than the UI here. So if I just try to drag a input field, or excuse me, a Textmeshpro input field onto an input field here, it's not going to work. So instead of using the UI here, I'm going to say using capital TMP Pro, or capital P for Pro, if that makes sense. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then from here, let's go ahead and set up a start method. So I'm going to say void start. And then above that, I'm going to also set a reference to an input field here. Now the input field that I want to use, again, it's not quite just, input field. It's going to be TMP underscore input field. And let's just go ahead and call this input for right now. Now I can have a reference to this game object right in scene here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And let's go back to our Unity window. And we're going to let these files kind of recompile, I guess. Let's go to our game manager, and now we can drag on the input field right to this public variable from there. And now we have our reference for this in our script here. So now let's go ahead and why don't we remove this right now? Let's go ahead and just set up a void. Let's just call this test function. And we're going to say input.text, so we can get a reference to whatever text is on this input field here. And let's say something like, I'll tell you what here, let's change this up. Let's say debug.log input.text. So accessing the property of text on this input field from here. Right, input field, and then we have the text object from there, right? Now, one of the things I need to also do here is I need to set up a button to call this function, right? Because right now the function is going to be called, which also means I have to make this public. So we're going to make this public. Cool. Let's save the script. Let's go back to here. Let's go ahead and collapse this down. Right click on canvas, UI, and let's set up a button too. Button. And let's go ahead and move this down. We don't need to change the text here because, why would we? And we can make this the same size. I believe it was 400 and then 100, maybe 75 from there. Cool. And then on the button itself, let's go ahead and add an onClick method. Let's do it this way right now, and I'll show you guys another way to do this too here. Plus, and then we'll drag in the game manager, drop that down. Game manager, and we're going to say test function because we're going to call this function when we hit this button. Let's go ahead and hit save. Let's go ahead and hit play. Now if I hit this button from here, we're going to log nothing because there's nothing in this right now, right? There's no real text, just the suggestion text there, the placeholder text. If I type in some characters and I hit the button, we can see we can get the value of that input field from there, right? Same thing. Cool. Now another thing that I want to show you guys here is as you guys build up your games more and more, as they get built bigger and bigger, it makes more sense here, especially I found, and I've seen with different developers, to do most of the things within your script from here. The more you have to go over to this inspector, the more messy things get. And this is good really when you first start coding with games and stuff like that here, but as you kind of go along here, it's sometimes better to just have an onClick function or add an onClick function in your script here. So this is a little bonus from here. The main idea, the main part of the tutorial is everything that I said earlier, using TMPro, Textmeshpro input field here, and the input.text. That's how you can get the value from there. This stuff is all bonus from here. So let's go ahead and add a start method. We're going to say void start, and let's go ahead and make a public button, and let's just call this button from here. So we're getting a reference to this button. And for this button here, we have to say using Unity engine .ui. Semicolon from there. And like I said, this is going to seem a little kind of silly right now, but as you build out your games more and more, I'm a big fan of it doing this way as opposed to adding onClick methods in the inspector here. So I'm going to go back to the button. I'm going to remove this onClick function from here, but I'm going to re-add it back in the script from here. Before we do that though, we need to set up a reference to this button here. So go to the game manager and we're going to drag in button to button from there. And then once I have a reference to this button, I could change up the text, I could change up the color, I can do different things here all within the script here. I can control a lot of things instead of having to go back to the inspector every time. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say button dot onClick, so we're accessing the onClick function of this, add listener. I'm going to set up a callback function. Arrow, and we're going to open this up here, and I'm going to say test function, just like that there. So what we're doing is every time this button is clicked here, we're adding a listener to run this function as a callback. And we can prove that if we go back here. In fact, I'll let you guys see that a little more there. So it's button.onClick, we're accessing that property, and then we're using the onClick listener function to add this function as a callback. So whenever this function is called, this function is going to be called too. It's a little bit of A little bit of a brain inception type deal here, but that's basically the syntax of it there. All right. Back to our game here. We hit play. And we go to our scene here, type, we hit the button, we see this is still being called here. Even if I go to button, we'll see that there's nothing on click here, but we assigned it in the script here, that's why it still works. One more little bonus idea here is on this input field here, what we can do is we can call different functions when the value is changed, or when things are done editing or on selected or on deselected here, and you can use it to highlight different things in game here. Like maybe if I have like a bunch of input boxes, maybe I want to have like a light move down. So if I click on the name, maybe a little selector would point to name, or if I click on this here, that would move down to the next box here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the kind of idea we had before. Is I'm going to add a function onto this input field here. Tell you what, I'm jumping out of order a little bit here, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and type out the function first here, and then we'll add it in scene here. We're going to say public void, and let's call this on change on input field change function. And we'll just debug.log, say value was changed. So every time the input field is changed, we're going to run this function. And I do this sometimes within my game here to kind of reset the form. Like if we're doing a network call and a user puts in their username and the password, and it goes out to network, and then it comes back and says, hey, that password's wrong here. When they change something within either the username or the password, I use this function to reset the form, right? To reset the button, because if you send a network request, you want to disable the button, and then once they edit or once they need to change the values, we're going to reset the form and allow them to hit the button again. Hopefully that makes some sense. Anyways, let's go to on value changed. We're going to add a function. And let's go and drag in our game manager. Drop this down here, game manager, and then we'll go to the on input field value changed, and we'll see if this is working now here. So every time I change some value within this input field, this function should run from there, right? Let's try it. Type in some stuff, you'll see it's running, and if I turn off collapse here, we'll see how many times that's running, right? So like I said, the way I use it a lot of times when I'm building my games here, a lot of times I send out a network request. Like if I have a username and a password there, when they hit the button, we disable the button. This way they're not sending out a bunch of network requests. We wait until that network request comes back, and if it's the wrong information, we might say like, username and password is wrong. And then once they change some stuff, then we re-enable the button, right? Hopefully that makes some sense. Anyways, that was a bit of a tangent there, a couple bonus lectures for you guys to take home. But if you guys learned something, be sure to give me a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. And I think that's going to be it for this video here, a little bit longer. But remember, the main idea here, if you're talking about input fields with Textmeshpro, make sure that you're using TMPro. Make sure that you have this public variable set up here. And then from there, you should be good to go to access the actual value. It is the name of the variable, .text. Anyways, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and thank you for watching.